Hi guys, and welcome back to my Basics of Photography series. So today we're going to be talking a little bit about lenses. Now lenses, there's a couple of main types that we'll run through, but lenses can expand into a very broad range and type. There's a bunch of different specialty lenses and stuff you get into. The main ones we're looking at are our fixed focal length. So these ones, otherwise known as prime lenses. So a fixed focal length or a prime lens has one fixed focal length, or a zoom, depending on what how you want to look at it. So this is a 50mm lens. You can get 100mm lens, you can get 85, you can get 25, you can get 18, you can get 400. This is where it starts getting a little bit sketch. So you can have a zoom lens or a telephoto lens. It is also a prime lens. Basically, it's just a prime or a fixed focal length. It has one focal length that it's going to be stuck to, so you can't zoom in and out with it. So this is a 50mm lens, as I said. This is a 100mm lens. You can also get what's called a fisheye or a wide angle lens, like a 25 or an 18. 50mm on what is called a full frame camera. So my 5D2 is what's called a full frame camera. I'll go into that a little bit more. I won't do that today, I'll do it in another series. Effectively on something that has what's considered a full frame and not a crop sensor, 50mm is what's kind of known as the sort of generally known as sort of the standard field of vision for a human. So 50mm lens with that is going to give me about the same sort of field of view that I'm going to have if I'm looking at the scene myself naturally. It does include obviously peripheral vision, but just where I can focus normally, that's roughly what a 50mm lens is going to give me. On a crop sensor, that changes slightly because a crop sensor will magnify. So a 50mm on a 1.6 crop sensor, for instance, will come in around 80mm, 85mm. So it's going to be a little bit more narrowed field of view. So obviously the further out you go, if I've got a wide angle lens, I'm going to see out here. If I've got a more telephoto lens, it's going to start focusing more as a narrow beam. So we have prime lenses or fixed focal lens. That can be anything from a simple one up to a big telephoto, big zoom lens. We have, next one, zoom lenses. So zoom lenses again can come in a lot of different types. Zoom lens effectively will allow you to zoom, as the name suggests. So this is a 24-70, so this will let me zoom if I want from 24mm to 70mm, as opposed to that one that is just stuck at 50mm. You can now have bigger ones, such as this. This is my 70 to 200mm. So this will let me zoom. So where this one zooms, the actual front will change as I zoom in and out. My 70 to 200, it's all done internally. So as I zoom, no change to the camera. I'm not sure if you're going to be able to see it, but if we look down the barrel, you should be able to. You'll be able to see those elements moving in and out. So it mechanically moves inside. Now, they do that for a bunch of different reasons. Obviously, as this moves in and out, you can see there's a little separation in there. So obviously, as I'm moving that in and out, if I'm in a very dusty environment or something like that, I can get water, I can get junk all stuck in here, which is obviously going to reduce the age of the camera, age of the lens and the wear of the lens. Whereas this one, I can use that wherever I want, and it's what's called weather sealed. So it's not going to have all the mechanisms in here. There's O-rings and there's little up and overs and stuff like that to mechanically stop dust and water and stuff getting into the lens. So it's a lot more sealed, a lot more protected. You kind of want that for when you pay for these type of lenses, because they start getting up into the big money range. This is not a cheap lens. This is by far no means the biggest or most expensive lens you can get, but for me, this is a very expensive lens, and for most people, it's a very expensive lens. There's a couple of grand in that, so the sort of thing you want to last for a very long time. Now, when you're talking telephoto lenses, so telephoto lenses would generally look very similar to this in terms of they will be fixed. Zoom lenses will let you zoom, so anything past about 60mm is when they start talking. So like anything past, so I said this is a 50mm, anything past 60mm is when they start talking about being a not telephoto, but a more of a zoom type lens, or it is a telephoto lens, but people think telephoto, they think, you go to the sports center, they do the massive 800mm lens or 600mm lens, absolutely ginormous, look like cannons on the front of their camera. Anything past the 60mm is technically a telephoto lens. It's the general kind of consensus. with these, so this is a zoom lens. My 24-70 is a zoom lens. I don't have a fixed telephoto lens. I do, but they're on my film cameras, not my digital ones. And they're kind of buried at the moment, so I can't get one out. You can get the same thing with a prime telephoto lens. So you go to the sport, you see football or whatever you go and watch, and you see the guys on the side of the sideline in the medium scrum, and they've got these monstrous things with big lenses that, this round. They're generally going to be a prime telephoto lens. So they could be a 5, 6, 7, 800 mil lens. Canon do make up to a 1200 mil lens, which is an absolute, it's honestly like a meter long, and the barrel's like this big on it. It's freaking ginormous. It's also like 30, 40 grand. I actually think it's more than that. It's about 60 grand to be honest. But there's only a couple of them made. Obviously the quality of the glass and the time that it takes to make one of those is a backwater for how to get them. And generally they're for like big news agencies that cover. Unfortunately, they use a lot for like paparazzi type stuff, standing 12 blocks away and shooting someone in their backyard that they shouldn't be. But I digress. Telephoto lenses, so you're going to find this is considered a telephoto lens. This is considered a semi-telephoto because it goes from 24 to 70, over 60 mil. So when I'm shooting 60 mil and above, it's considered a telephoto. This one, it's 70 to 200, so this is considered a telephoto zoom lens. When you're shooting sport, you really want something that's going to give you a little bit more range. It does have its drawbacks though. So this little 50 mil fixed focal prime lens, the elements in this and the glass in this is designed to shoot one focal length only. So they can be made. I'm going to actually do a whole video just on this lens because, so this little 50 mil lens, it's called a Nifty 50, is the nickname that people have given to it because it is very nifty. It's a 50 mil lens, pretty straightforward, and it's very nifty. It is cheap as chips. This is the cheapest lens I own, but it takes some of the best photos out of, even this thing is worth a couple of grand. This thing can take better photos of it, depending on the lighting, depending on what I'm shooting, but this can actually take better photos if you know what you're doing with it. The difference is because this is designed for one focal length and one focal length only, the elements in this are designed for that one length. They don't have to suit anything else, they don't have to do anything different. They're just set to one focal length, that's it. When I'm talking this, it's going from 70 mil to 200 mil. So that's a very, very big range that the elements in here have to compensate. Rather than being perfected for one focal length, they have to be good for a large focal length. What that means is it has to be a little bit more general purpose, I suppose, as opposed to the little 50 mil that is perfected to that one focal length. It's literally just one job, that's it. You'll find your prime lenses will get you a slightly better image. They're going to get you a slightly sharper image. And you're going to find the lenses, this gets into a lot more of the advanced stuff, the glass in the lenses can have different types of chromatic aberrations, they can have different color casts, they can have all sorts of different weird things that go on, vignetting and all sorts of stuff. If you have software that knows what the lenses are, and the lenses are recording the metadata of your photo, software can compensate for that a little bit. Lightroom does a really good job of it. It's getting into a lot more advanced type stuff, but basically the more glass you've got in there to suit a bigger range of focal lengths, the more things can go wrong, like any machine. The more parts that are in it, the more things are out to break, the more things are out to go wrong. The more complicated you make a lens, the less the quality gets. Not saying that a lens like this is going to give you bad quality, not saying a big 800 mil is going to give you bad quality. They're still going to give you amazing, amazing, amazing quality. And this is at the moment, especially when I'm shooting track work and photography and cars, this is my go-to lens because it does a freaking incredible job. Obviously, the more expensive lens you get, the better that's going to get. But when you're talking, if I'm shooting at 200 of that and comparing that to a 200 fixed focal length or prime lens, the fixed focal length is going to shoot a much better photo than this. Much, much better. It's going to do a hell of a lot better job because the lenses in that are designed to do one thing and one thing only. These are designed to go from 70 to 200. So they're going to be a little bit more general purpose. The other thing you start getting into, so your main ones, your prime fixed focal length and your zoom and telephoto. You then start getting into specialty lenses. Specialty lenses where the whole world kind of opens up and does all weird stuff. You're not going to need these for sports photography, so I'm not going to go a huge amount of detail into them. I will kind of just touch on them a little bit. So I don't have a huge amount of them because I don't use them a lot. I do, however, have this one, which is, it's actually a macro lens. You can see little Canon macro lens. So this is a fixed focal length. So it's a 100mm lens. It is a macro lens. So what that means is it lets me get, you can see on here, so a little switch on the side of this one. That gives a rough idea. It's not going to focal for me. So 1.5 or 3 meters, I can set that to in terms of the closest my subject's going to be, just to narrow down how quickly it has to autofocus. This one will let me go down to 0.31 or 0.48. So it lets me get down to 30 centimeters away from my subject at 100 focal length, 100mm focal length. That is going to let me get really, really close detail of things, and really, really sharp, because it's a prime lens. You won't get zoom lenses that are, you won't get macro lenses that are zoom, because they're doing something so specific. Generally, all your specialty lenses will be prime lens. They won't be zoom lens, because they're designed to do one purpose and one purpose only. Strange as it sounds, this is actually my favorite portrait lens. Like I was saying, the different glass and lenses that are in them can have a big impact on the color rendition and the way the images actually look and the separation from the background and stuff. This shooting natural light portraits, freaking incredible. The colors that get out of this and the clarity you get out of this is amazing. I absolutely love shooting portraits with this. Very, very odd. I know using a macro lens for it, but I think it's freaking incredible. You can get fisheye lenses. So fisheye lenses are generally going to be like a 28 and under, I think they consider them. It's like a wide angle lens. So this one, as I said, is a 24. It's not quite fisheye. So fisheye is when you see it. We've all seen the fisheye where it kind of has a curved look to the photo, so real big in the middle and then kind of flattens out. Fisheye lenses, you can get tilt shift lenses, you can get a whole range of different specialty lenses. We're not going to touch on them because generally you're not going to use them for car photography unless you get into something funky and you want to completely change your look. For me, my go-to is, as I said, track work. This thing, I would love something bigger. I'm actually looking at getting a little extender for the back of it, potentially a 2x adapter. So essentially, to 70-200, it will turn it to a 140 to 400mm lens. I probably will need a tripod for that because 400mm is getting very, very long. But I'm looking at getting one of those just to give me a little bit more versatility without spending $6-7 grand on a new lens. I can pick one of those things up for a couple $100. So that's where I'm looking at for that. In terms of general, so that's track work is the 24 as the 70-200. General walk around stuff, generally my 24-70, so these are my two main lenses. 24-70 I'll use for walk around stuff, or my 50mm, the little prime 50. The difference with this, you need to know you've got room to move around the subject. So if I want to zoom in or out, I can stand in one spot, I can zoom in and out, easy. If I want to zoom in and out, I have to. I don't have a choice. That is fixed to one focal length, so I can't zoom in and out with it. I physically have to move in or away from the, move into the subject or away from the subject. Going to get me a better photo, but as I said, you just need to be aware of the limitations that this will need you to physically move. If you're in a really tight area like a museum or something like that, you're trying to get photos, you only get so much distance you can get back. Or if you're in a like a show and shine day and the cars are really packed in, there's massive crowds, you're gonna have people walking in front of you, you're gonna be bumping into people, like it's a bit of a pain in the ass. Whereas this, I can literally just stand in one spot and just reframe a photo depending on what I want and just move around depending on where I need to be, up, down, left, right. But that will let me get a lot more versatility. The same with this thing, I can stand in one spot in the track. Cars get up close, I can zoom out. Cars get farther away, I can zoom in. So that makes it a lot easier without having to move as much. And then it's just a matter of getting the right angle, getting the light and that sort of stuff, which we'll go into in later episodes. So that's your three main lenses. So you've got your fixed focal and or your prime lens, depending on what you want to call it. Your zoom lens, your telephoto lens, and then obviously your specialty lenses. I will put some samples of these up in a future video, kind of talk you through each lens individually, and show you sort of comparison between the two of them for what the different what the different lenses and stuff, like the glass and stuff, the effect that it makes, especially the macro lens, how close up you can get. Actually, I think doing a little bit more macro work with cars as well. Just there's some cool details if you know how to look for them, you know how to shoot for them. There's cool details. People spend a lot of time and effort on small details in their cars that a lot of people don't generally notice or recognize. It's nice to kind of put a bit of credit to that and show them that you can see the work and kind of highlight the bits and pieces and the things they're really proud of their car, all the finer details. So yeah, that's our lenses for today. Next one I'm going to go into is the basic modes of photography. So what are all these fun little buttons up the top for? And kind of give you just a brief overview of what they're for. So until next time, guys, don't forget to like and subscribe down below. Obviously, like always, if you want to catch any of the gear, if you want to see any of the equipment that I use or anything like that, all my setup and stuff's down below, so you can grab a look at that. Obviously, all the Amazon links if you want to pick it up and start following along as well. Until next time.